Welcome. Today we're going to talk about a topic that affects so many women, millions of women, and without the embarrassment, the frustration, without the silence, we are going to talk about pelvic organ prolapse because it affects so many women, and a lot of times surgery is recommended as the only option. I want to empower you and know that there are solutions, and the things that I'm going to discuss today, the top 3 fixes for easing your pelvic organ prolapse symptoms, can be corrected by yourself first, and I will show you the steps, what you can do to try everything possible in a more holistic manner before opting for surgery. My name is Dr. Dawn Andalone. I'm a pelvic floor specialist, a physical therapist who works with women all over the globe. And for women who are undergoing any symptoms of pelvic organ prolapse, like feeling pressure or heaviness down in the vaginal area, maybe some lower abdominal pain, lower back pain, anything like that that is causing them a lot of discomfort and worry, then have no fear. We're going to discuss these top 3 tips that has helped a lot of the clients that I have seen, and therefore gives you some solutions, some confidence and clarity to be able to help your own symptoms, ease them a little bit faster. So pelvic organ prolapse, it is this weakening of the pelvic floor area. The pelvic floor being these muscles in red at the bottom part of your pelvis. They support your pelvic organs, your bladder, your uterus, your rectum. And those organs are held together by ligaments. Well, when the ligaments stretch, weaken, that can press against the vaginal wall, and therefore you may even see a bulge through the vaginal opening or the rectal opening, or feel that extra pressure, heaviness, or uncomfortable feeling when you're standing, sitting. And in this pelvic organ prolapse, sometimes women after a hysterectomy will experience symptoms of bladder prolapse, needing to run to the bathroom faster, having more leaks and incontinence because they don't have as much support around their bladder. Now, I don't want you to worry. I don't want you to freak out that all of this is irreversible, because there are things that you can do to help ease the symptoms, and doctors will recommend a surgery. There are different types of prolapse surgeries. We're not going to get into that today, but my job is to help guide you in the right direction of doing some things that might help your symptoms today. So the first thing that I can't stress enough is really looking at your posture. It sounds so easy, but women with poor posture habits tend to have worsening symptoms and more of that pressure, heaviness on the pelvic area. So what does that look like? So fixing your posture. If you're in standing, you want to think about your ribs stacking right over your hips and right over your pelvis. We oftentimes tend to stand with our ribs forward or backward like this, where we're putting a lot of pressure on our tailbone when we're sitting. I'm gonna show you in a chair. Okay, take driving for instance, or sitting at your desk. You don't wanna be sitting back on your tailbone and this kind of curved, lazy position of your lower back. First of all, your back is gonna start to ache and hurt because that puts a lot of stress on your discs and your ligaments in your lower back, but also it creates this extra tension and pressure around your pelvic area and can tense and tighten the pelvic floor muscles. So instead, we want to stack the ribs right over our hips, and getting in that position when you're standing and sitting will allow you to breathe easier. It'll take more pressure off of the pelvic area, and therefore over time, this will help ease some of your symptoms. You can get more strength from this area by having your pelvic muscles and your core support your pelvic organs in a better manner too. So the first tip is fixing your posture and really working on that alignment. Now, second thing is focusing on the pelvic floor and the core muscles. I'm not talking about tightening and tensing. No, I'm talking about, can you learn how to breathe properly? So working on some diaphragmatic breathing exercises, which I will show you, and also learning how to engage your pelvic floor muscles where you're not squeezing and tightening all the time, but you're kind of syncing that with your breathing and doing strengthening and therapeutic exercises to help heal your core and your pelvic floor being the bottom part of your core. Think of Pilates-based therapeutic exercises that will provide so much support. We have recently had multiple women in their 50s, 60s, 70s with prolapse symptoms, pretty significant, and doing a series of Pilates-based exercise over 6 weeks. They have found huge results with their symptoms and not feeling that same amount of annoying pressure or heaviness or frustration that they're not sure if it's ever going to get better. Now, Pilates-based exercise will work on flexibility and also strength. So you want to make sure that you are working not only your ab muscles, because you don't want to just tense and tighten those all the time, but we want to work on inhaling through our nose, allowing our rib cage to expand and our belly to expand, because that allows your pelvic floor to relax. And then as you exhale, you breathe through your mouth and you think of drawing in and up from those pelvic floor muscles and your lower belly. So you're engaging on your exhale. If you practice a series of diaphragmatic breathing, lying on your back with just hands around your ribs, and you're thinking of expanding that rib cage, kind of like an umbrella opening and closing with your breathing, and don't even think about contracting your muscles, but just starting there with some deep breaths, some diaphragmatic breathing can be very healing for your pelvic floor. Those pelvic floor muscles, when you have prolapse, they're used to tensing and trying to hold everything in all the time, but we don't want to tighten and tense everything all the time, because that also will create extra pressure on your pelvic floor and on your organs. So instead, we want to learn how to get that pelvic floor at its natural state, and by practicing some breathing exercises, that can be very helpful. I also have a really great program, Pelvic Floor Pilates. I will put that in the link right below in the description. But I think it's important to know that you don't want to, that was my next tip, you don't want to tense and tighten your muscles all the time, all day long, because that will actually do your prolapse a disservice. It won't help heal the way those muscles are meant to function. So my Pelvic Floor Pilates program teaches you how to release and breathe and stretch, but then also how to engage and get the muscles stronger and more supported. So if you're doing any kind of Pilates program, make sure you're not just tensing and tightening your abs all the time. You want to really encourage the breathing pattern of letting go and then engaging. But if we're just tightening our abs all the time, that puts more stress and pressure down on the pelvic floor. So to summarize that again, the 3 quick fixes to help ease your prolapse symptoms. Number 1 is really working on your posture and alignment, getting your spine up nice and tall and elongated. Think of your ribs stacking right over your hips and keeping that length in your spine, and working on some deep breathing exercises while you have that alignment. Those breathing exercises can be done 10 to 15 times, a couple times a day. Doing them on your back with your knees bent is a good way to relax everything and just kind of work on resetting your muscles. Next is not tensing and tightening your abs and your pelvic floor all day long. Check in with your muscles when you're sitting in the car or sitting at your desk, that you don't want to feel like that is a natural habit for you, because you might be doing it subconsciously and just gripping everything. So when you are working on, if you decide to move forward and work on my Pelvic Floor Pilates program, I will show you what that means, and being able to not tense all the time, but get your muscles stronger and work on a more therapeutic program. So your pelvic floor, your core muscles, super important, your posture, and also not gripping all the time. Try those things, and I would love to know if they are working for you. There are a lot of holistic options for pelvic floor therapy and helping ease your symptoms if you are facing surgery and it scares you right now. So thank you so much for watching. I have some other helpful tips and videos on this channel about prolapse, so go back and watch those, and we'll see you again in another video.